Welcome to Orlando Sentinel's interview with the two candidates for Seminole County Commission, incumbent Andria Herr, an executive vice president with an insurance brokerage firm who was first elected to the commission in 2020, and Democrat Gary, who has a background in restaurant development and community involvement. We are going to spend some time talking to both of them about facing county. We did ask before we started this video to make sure that they both agreed to focus on those issues and not on personal situations. So we will look forward to talking to them about what's going to be happening in Seminole County over the next 4 years. And I'm going to start with a question that just can't be skipped when you talk about Seminole County, and that is the rural boundary, which has a near religious status among voters and elected leaders alike. Is there a circumstance under which the county could or should consider modifying those lines? Mr. Carney, let's start with you.
So whether there's a circumstance that they could or should, I don't know. On the ballot this election cycle, we do have an amendment or two to require a supermajority to change any designation within the rural boundary, and I supported that. And I am an environmentalist at heart, and while I grew up in New York, I also spent a great deal of my youth on a farm in Vermont. And to me, protecting our green space and our environment for the future generations is so important. And Seminole County is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful place to live. Our rural boundary does protect our water, our wildlife, our natural Florida, our springs, and I think it's really important that we do continue to protect it. We have so many areas in Seminole County that could be redeveloped. We have brown spaces and old buildings that need to be redeveloped. We'll see what happens after this storm. There's going to be a lot of places that need to be redeveloped. I don't think that we need to be cutting into new earth, and I don't think that we need to be cutting into our rural boundary. And I would absolutely support both amendments to require the supermajority, and I would also support protecting your rural boundary at all costs. So it's really that simple. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Herr, same question. And in addition, could you tell us how you plan to vote on those amendments?
Absolutely. I think the question of, is there ever a time when you would see a change to the rural boundary is really difficult. I don't see a change to the rural boundary in any time in my lifetime. But what I can't predict is what happens 50 years from now in Seminole County. We're in Florida for that fact, and the concerns about population growth in our state are real, and the concerns about affordability of housing is real, and a lot of that is driven around land. That is not to say that I don't support the rural boundary. That's to say that I can't predict the future. So never is a really big word in my language, and I won't use it when I can't actually substantiate it. I don't see a reason to change the rural boundary within the lifetime of certainly my involvement at the county, or quite honestly, my lifetime. And maybe that's just too telling about my age. I am very proud of the fact that we did get the state to acquire the Yarborough Ranch, which is in the rural boundary, which puts all of that land into preservation, certainly key for the connectivity for the wildlife corridor. And it was state funds that purchased it, which leaves anything that we have in Seminole forever for opportunities for purchasing other land that can go into preservation. I do think it's important that we protect it. And I think the two ballot initiatives are really good. They did come from a place with the charter committee review. It was a divided vote. It was one vote that tipped it over to put it on the ballot. I'm very glad it's on the ballot. I am torn as to how to vote. I think the notion of moving to supermajorities on a 5-member board push the requirement to change to be very notably scary. And where does it stop? So what are the next issues that we want a supermajority on? And then that changes our entire form of governance, which is critical. I think people need to make informed decisions about that vote.
Thank you for that answer. I'll move on with the next one. The county, working with cities, has done an outstanding job of recruiting clean, high-paying jobs and several corporate headquarters to the county. However, the world's changing and more workers are operating remotely, so that could change the dynamic. Should Seminole County shift its economic development policy as a result? And we'll start with Ms. Herr.
I don't think we need to shift the economic policy in terms of expecting headquarters to move here. Most organizations are scaling back the size of their organizations and leaseholds that they have. You know, there's a lot of ghost leases in the marketplace that once they come up, we're going to see more availability. And quite honestly, I think you'll see office buildings that are available for redevelopment, possibly redevelopment to affordable housing. But I do think we still need to recruit that corporate headquarters to this marketplace. And let me tell you why. Number one, I think it brings a level of executive into the community that we need in terms of further growth for the community, meaning intellectual growth. It brings high-paying jobs, which means that it changed the entire trajectory of the school system. And I would also tell you that it brings significant impact to the charitable organizations in our community. We typically don't get donations from Universal Studios, from Disney, etc., because they're not housed here. We are struggling to get Verizon to jump into the mix because they're really not housed here, although they have a big presence here. That will change the dynamic for places like the Rescue Outreach Mission and Foundation for Seminole County Schools, etc. It changes the structure and the fabric of a community when you have those corporate entities in the marketplace. Whether or not they have thousands of employees is not relevant. It's that they have the leadership here, and the leadership is our neighbors, and the leadership sit on our boards, and the leadership are invested in our local community.
Thank you for that, Mr. Carney.
Well, I think that was a great answer, I can't find much at fault with the answer. I think that's absolutely right. We do need leadership, and we do need the big corporate presence within our county. We've been fortunate to have some really big companies in the Lake Mary area where Commissioner runs her business, and it's been good for our county, but we cannot forget about the people that have lived here for so long, that have modest homes and work blue-collar jobs and work every day in our county. We cannot overlook them. There are so many small businesses and so many businesses within, our district in the Sanford area and actually throughout our whole county that need refurbished. Now, I'm a small businessman, and I've operated in smaller restaurants. I've operated in in the corporate environment, and I see our small business as the backbone of our community. There are so many businesses that are struggling right now, and I think as a community, it's probably time to focus more on the small businesses, and that relates to basically where we live and how we live. Right now, you see Seminole County growing a lot of apartment buildings and a lot of smaller, less sprawling homes to live in. I think we certainly have our inventory of that. But in terms of business growth and development, I would look personally smaller. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Both of you made sideways reference to housing, and that actually leads into the next question. The county is exploring options to increase the affordability and availability of housing. And much of this decision-making will be made by the municipalities. But what should the commission do, and what should the commission be doing on the issue of housing? And Mr. Carney, we'll start with you.
Well, that's a big question. There's so many things that we can do, and I think that we need a multi-pronged approach to affordable housing. And when we say affordable housing, we're not just talking about the least of these. We're talking about our community in general. We just talked about big business and bringing in executives that are a donor base for small organizations and stuff like that. But And that's a great community to have within our community, but we're talking about everyday people that need places to live. And as I drive through the county, I see so many failing buildings and businesses that, I see parking lots, and I see one-story businesses with empty parking lots. And I see so much place that we have within our cities and our urban core that we can build into affordable housing. And I think we need to get creative. I think with 7 cities and a county, we need to have a committee on affordable housing, and we need to make it a community-involved type of thing. The number of different projects and the number of different things that we could do to get more homes. Now, I believe that people should own, or we need to make opportunities for people to own their homes. And what we're finding in our county is that people are getting priced out of their own homes. I've met constituent after constituent, voter after voter, the people that have lived here for a long time that can no longer afford to live here. And I think that's really something that we need to focus on as a county, is the people that are already here. How can they afford to continue to live in their own homes? And I see a lot of opportunities for people to capitalize and get equity in their own property by expanding their properties to make them not just single family homes, but duplexes, triplexes, and whatnot. I think that there are people that can rebuild in their own places and be able to afford to live, or add ownership to our county. Young people right now can't get into the housing market. $420,000 is an average for a single family home. It's really difficult, and the choice is rental or buy. And I think that we need to work on more buy options for people that can't afford $420,000 to get in. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Ms. Herr, what is your view on this?
I do think we have to look at increased density in the urban core, and we have over the last 3 years done a considerable amount of work with our land development code to address that. It's the first time that we've actually revamped the LDC in Seminole County in a very long time. We've tweaked it over the years, but in the last 12 months, we've actually, to a very large degree, rewritten it. So the idea of creating increased density, meaning it's not simply single family, but possibly duplexes, triplexes, what I would call a row house type, we call them townhouses here, environment, and then create that community environment where there's multiple opportunities, including rental to ownership. So you could live in the same community. And we did this years ago. I would point to Sable Point as one of those. There's apartments in the front, there's townhouses to the right-hand side. And when you go to the back, there's smaller homes. And when you go further back, there's larger homes. You can spend your entire life in that same community, kids through school, etc. That already is in process in our community. We have made it so that you can put an accessory dwelling if you have a lot that's big enough in a neighborhood that allows it, because sometimes there's homeowners associations rules that we have to be responsive to as well. Some of the more inspiring things that we've done is around the notion of getting people to build, so developers to be interested in affordable housing. And we've created what we think is the first of its kind revolving loan, where we front the money to a developer to do affordable housing. When they sell the homes, it comes back to us. We're not only improving the opportunities for small businesses that want to be in that market segment, but we're increasing the inventory of those homes in our community. The most successful one so far was with Habitat for Humanity, where they did the first, what they're referring to as a subdivision in Seminole County, where it's 6 houses that came out of the ground all at once, right across the street from a school. So, and they're all affordable homes.
I'll take the next question. So over the past few years, the county went through an extensive listening and visioning process. What was your chief takeaway from that, and how will it shape the coming years of decisions on the council? Starting with Ms. Herr.
I think the top issue that came out of that was concern, ironically that we're talking about this today, but concern about flooding, concern about traffic comes not too far after that, and concern about the affordability of their own homes long term. So with regard to flooding, we do have to invest significantly more in terms of infrastructure. We are, I was critical in the process of getting Midway to be attended to in terms of their drainage. We have a $20 million project. Half of that was penny sales tax. The other half was ARPA funding. We're in the process of acquiring right away right now. It will change that community. It will not solve all of their problems. We are not done yet. There are many other examples like that around the community where studies are in process. Up here on Orange Boulevard, we have one going in. That one's already acquiring right away. But right down the street from that, we're just at the study of the basin and determining what we do next. That's huge. Traffic is also a significant concern. And again, we are ahead of that right now, but there's concern that we have to stay ahead of that. And then it's about making sure that we don't inflate the tax rolls to the degree that people can't afford their own home. We realize that there's Save Our Homes and the homestead exemption. That may not always be enough. There's concern about that because of the rising value of homes in the community. So I think we have to address all three. The last one, and I didn't do these in any particular order, but is that we maintain our quality of life in terms of preservation and that we do it wisely. We don't need to look for 100% of the time, look for massive acreage. What we need to look for is where can we preserve land so that the community can use it for passive recreation. It can be a place to go, a place to meet without destroying the natural integrity of that property. And that's in play already with Seminole Forever, which was also passed in the last 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Carney?
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be a part of that. As far as visioneering, I am very looking forward to being involved in the future. I know that we're working on a project 2045. We're looking out again for the future, and I hope to be a part of that, I guess, visioneering. What I heard Commissioner Herr talk about with the flooding, obviously, I've heard from people all over the county that that's a huge concern and a huge issue. And yeah, absolutely, today it's certainly an issue. And I've spoken to people on both sides of the aisle with homes sitting on lakes that are very concerned about the development that's happened in the years that they've lived here, who are being flooded out. And I know that there's work that needs to be done there. My biggest issue looking forward to it, and one of my biggest concerns is our water and our water quality, and our right to clean water. And I know that there's issues going on with the state that need to be taken care of. We have a St. Johns River Water Management District. There's a lot of people with hands in this situation that we need to bring together. And water does what it wants to do, and it goes where it wants to go. We can only control it so much. And currently, the state of our rivers and the state of our springs are in peril. And I think that that's something that we need to focus on as a county going forward. So I'm excited to be a part of the Visioneering event going forward. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to follow up on that because you've both talked about the serious situation with flooding throughout Seminole County, being with so much of its boundary being the St. Johns River and which is shallow and overflows its banks if somebody looks at it too hard. Events like Lake Milton, which as we are recording this is getting closer and closer. How can the county afford the massive investment that it will take to get any kind of control over flooding that is popping up across Seminole County? And we'll start with Mr. Carney.
How can the county afford it? How can the county not afford it? Taking care of our infrastructure is the role. There's always money to be found. The state has money. The federal government has money. We just talked about ARPA funds paying for the work going on in Midway. I'm a Democrat, and Democrats seem to be able to come up with money for this stuff. And I think that we need to continue to look at every resource as far as where money comes from. We have, again, 7 cities within Seminole County. And it seems like whether we work together or not, we've got a lot of people working on the same project, and perhaps bringing it all together under one jurisdiction or one roof to get us all under to discuss it as a group. I don't know the answer. I don't know where the money comes from, but I know it's probably our biggest priority. Water is life, and it's going to be the hottest commodity moving forward, and we just have to take care of it. So it's not that where do we find the money, it's where do we not find the money. We have to.
Thank you so much, Ms. Herr. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we have to, first of all, let's start with the fact that the penny sales tax is on the ballot this time, and that penny, it's a renewal of an existing tax. It is not an increase to taxes. It is a renewal to an existing tax. I support the penny tax. If you look at what it has done in this community, it's created the opportunity for us to have a quality of life that's pretty significant, and it's voter driven. By the way, visitors pay about a third of it, and that's a fabulous thing because they use infrastructure as well. I think we take that money, we leverage it to state and federal grants, and we do that rather effectively at the county level. We do not overlap projects with cities and the state. Everybody has their piece of the pie, and we actually coordinate that quite well. So I don't know that there's savings opportunities there. I would also tell you that I think one of the challenges that we have that's never talked about is acquiring right-of-way is exceptionally difficult. I think we have a tremendous community education opportunity in terms of what right-of-way means and what it doesn't mean. And I'll use Midway as a very big example. That project failed more than once because we couldn't acquire the right-of-way. We just couldn't get there. And so we have a dashboard now populated. So I look at it every day of where are we? How are we moving this forward? Creating more education opportunities in that space. There are a lot of things that get in the way of projects. Affordability is one of them. That takes really good planning and the ability to match federal funds. I will tell you this though. I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves in terms of spending beyond our means or spending beyond what our taxpayers can afford, because that goes to the affordability of their homes again. So we have to do it as financially responsibly as we can possibly be so that we're planned for the future.
Thank you so much. And I also wanted to shift back to another question that is very much on people's minds and that has been referenced as well. For all its affluence, Seminole County has what many say is a hidden problem with homelessness, poverty, and low-income families that are kind of hanging on to the edge. Again, this is an issue that is also addressed by cities. But what more should the county be doing, particularly in light of the very rigid law that took effect on October 1 that puts some significant burdens on local officials who want to try to address the homelessness issue? And let's start with Commissioner Herr.
Thank you, and I'm glad we're having a conversation about this because it is often thought that Seminole County doesn't have this issue. And I can tell you that it's probably been 10 years ago that I served on the Seminole Action Board as a local business member that was trying to identify what we could do to, at that point, we were using the word eradicate homelessness, which is an aspirational goal. And we pivoted from that to how do we minimize it and how do we address moving people from unhoused to housed. I serve on the Rescue Outreach Mission, which is the only emergency shelter in Seminole County on their board. I asked to be put on that board as a county commissioner, and I asked to remain on that board so that we could move them from completely dysfunctional to functional. They right now are raising through charitable donations about half of their revenue requirement, and the county is subsidizing that through ARPA funds again, but ARPA funds are gone. We all know that. And we have a board item that is coming. They're coming to the board to ask for funding to get them a glide path so that they can stay functional. And I will support that initiative. And I hope that my fellow commissioners will do that as well. We have to be in this work We have to be in the work. What I will tell you, though, is that I don't want us to get into the work the same way other communities, which they've gotten in, they're spending a significant amount of money, and the problem is actually expanding. I would love for us to do it differently and to do it wisely and to do it with charitable organizations that know what they're doing and can work through the HUD requirements, the housing first requirements, because they are rather extensive. Those organizations will be able to do it more effectively and more cost effectively than a county government would if we stepped into the fray. We need to be supportive, we need to be ancillary to their work, and we need to not get in the way. And if we do that well, then I think we can address the issues. We also need to be cooperative with all of the cities, and we need to be cooperative with the other agencies, meaning charitable organizations that operate in the periphery of homelessness, so that they can do well as well. When they are excelling, the problem subsides. That's where we need to be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carney.
Yeah, sure. So, homelessness is such a big word and such a big issue. It's hard to define. A lot of people will see or will hear the word homeless and just think about those that are terminal, that are always going to be there, that are really down on luck. But in Seminole County, I think our homeless problem, a lot of people use the word unhoused. It tends to be a little bit more invisible. We have people that you just cannot believe are without home in this society. We have young children, we have school children sleeping on neighbors' couches, and people doubling up in homes just to try to stay alive and to have a place to live. If you look at the local next door or Sanford 327 or any one of the towns, Facebook pages, you'll see on a daily basis people saying, I just lost my apartment, I can't find a place to live, I can't afford where I am. The issue is so multi-pronged, and we have to deal with it. There's, as a group, I mean, there's just so much to do. In my business, I've traveled the whole state of Florida. I've worked in every major city in Florida, and I've fed, housed, and employed homeless people on the street. And I can tell you that the problem is worse than we see. We need not only places for people to live, and that's what creates homelessness, is that people just simply cannot afford to live. And we're not just talking about people with mental illness or sickness. We're talking about everyday folks. At $420,000 to buy a home, and at $1,500 is a minimum to just get a one-bedroom apartment. I mean, you can find things cheaper, but they're hard to find. This is a big problem that we need to work with. What I'm tired of seeing is things like action boards that get hundreds of thousands of dollars to study the problem, and it's not spent on the problem. And I know that we recently did a big study to find out where our homeless people live in Seminole County, and make a map of them. Well, people move. We need to address the issue of getting people into homes, and that's the work that has to get done. I think the county has a responsibility to participate. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. The city of Sanford is suing the owners of Lake Mary manufacturing facility, where I-4-dioxane was found to have entered the water supply and spreading underground. Sanford hopes to force the manufacturers to fund a better water treatment facility. Do you think Seminole County should do the same by either joining Sanford or pursuing its own suit? And we'll start with Mr. Carney.
I do. I do think that Seminole County should be a part of that. The water that Sanford is dumping their sewage into and they just did yesterday, and they just had an announcement yesterday, they dumped partially treated sewage into our river. That's the St. Johns River. It's one of the very few rivers that flows north in North America, and it happens to flow north right past the Yankee water treatment facility in Seminole County. And that's where we're going to be eventually pulling drinking water out of. That's not a good scenario. Water, we all drink it, all the water from our whole area is flowing into our St. John's. We need to protect that. So I don't know what more to say. Yes, I do think that Seminole County should be involved in that fight. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Ms. Herr?
Absolutely. We actually have already hired external counsel to assist with our internal legal department. And the specific direction that they've been given is to be mindful of what Sanford is doing so that we don't harm anything that they're doing, because it's all the same community. And if it makes sense to partner, then we partner. If it makes sense to go alone, we go alone. Given that that is investigative at this point, it's probably wise that I don't make any more comments on that. But absolutely, there is an opportunity there, a potential opportunity there to hold the folks accountable who brought this disaster to our community. And we need to do that.
Thank you for that. I know that Ms. Herr, you mentioned the penny tax that's on the ballot earlier. But I wanted to note that Seminole County does not have a sales tax that's directly dedicated to infrastructure. Should it? And how would you handle that? And I'll start with you, Ms. Herr.
I think the majority of the penny does get spent on infrastructure. I do not think our citizens are tolerant of an additional tax. And quite honestly, if we were going to go for an additional tax, I would suspect that there would be more support for the school district than there would for additional infrastructure, just to be blatantly honest. Having been in this community since 1984, homeowner since 1986, and involved in hundreds of community meetings, I think if we went out for additional for infrastructure, our chances, similar to Orange County on a transportation only, did not pass, our chances would be rather abysmal. My opinion, I'm not a political consultant, nor do I run polls on this, but I think the school district would have a better chance at going out on their own. And quite honestly, I think that's probably equally important in terms of what the impact is to our citizens. So that is a really, really good question. And what I just gave you was my raw thoughts without having given that much consideration prior to that. But I will tell you, that's my gut reaction based on what I know of our community members.
Well, thank you very much for that. Mr. Carney, what are your thoughts on the possibility of infrastructure being added to sales tax?
Well, like Commissioner did say, currently a good portion of that penny does go to infrastructure. I mean, that's what we use it for. So I don't know that I have any additional comments to her answer. I think I really don't have much to add to that one, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I did want to ask about you both had mentioned the relationship with the cities and how that plays into setting the path for Seminole County's future. What ideas do you have for bringing the cities and the county together? And are there opportunities that aren't currently being exploited for collaboration and that other C word, consolidation, which tends to get people up in arms at times, of services so that the cost is potentially lowered for all of the county's taxpayers? And we'll start with Mr. Carney.
Difficult question for me to answer. I haven't, I'm not the incumbent. I have not been in the seat. I will have to learn a good deal about how we work together currently with the cities. And, you know, as just a constituent, I can see and I feel frustration often with the answer that people often get when they talk to government, and that's the finger pointing. Well, that's their job. That's their role. Oh, you know, you need to go talk to the city, or no, that's the county. And how we delineate that is, you know, is always going to be a frustration for people that don't understand how how government works. So I am all for cooperation. I think that's the way you get things done. The first thing I see that we have to cooperate on and work together on is our water issues and our drainage issues. And every one of the cities has them, and flooding issues. We have to work together to handle this sort of thing because, again, water doesn't listen to what we say. You can't you can't legislate what the environment is going to do. So we have to be able to work together with the cities, and it's just that simple. I'm a worker togetherer. I'm a person who looks for the best of everybody and tries to bring people together, and bringing the cities and the counties together is certainly always going to be my focus. So there we go.
Thank you so much. Sure. Same question. Do you see ways to improve collaboration between the municipalities and the county, and do you see any opportunities for consolidation of services?
I think that's a fantastic question, and I would tell you, I think that you can use Seminole County as an example of collaboration and cooperation for a lot of the other communities that are out there. It starts with the elected officials being in relationship. Collaboration doesn't happen when we're all speaking at each other as opposed to each other, and it doesn't happen when we're not listening. And we have a long-standing pattern of doing that extremely well. I can tell you that just this morning, I was making sure I have a county cell phone, but I don't know which cell phone's going to go down first in this storm. I was making sure that the city commissioners in Sanford, where I overlap, have my information, just touching base. They were doing the same with me. There is a very good level of collaboration. I will also tell you that I'm a continuous quality improvement girl, and so I always think there's opportunities for improvement. One area where I think we can improve is around annexation. I am not excited about how certain areas of our county have been annexed in the past, and they tend to annex around areas, and that's just not acceptable in my opinion. I think there's work to be done from that respect. I would tell you from a consolidation, and that does send shivers up everybody's spine. So I'll be careful as I talk about this, including the citizens, by the way, and probably starting with the citizens. There's an attachment to your local police department, fire department, et cetera, et cetera. There are probably opportunities for consolidation. Where we have done the best with consolidations is when the city has identified the need to do it, and it wasn't us coming and asking. I've witnessed over the years where if the county came up with the idea, probably a bad idea, because we don't necessarily know all of the city's issues, but when the city came up with the idea because there was a need, if we were ready to stand up and say, we can accommodate that need by cooperating and collaborating, then we got there with consolidation. And we've done that with a number of fire departments over the years. Where do I think it can go next? Some of the more operational units, I think there's opportunities, but I will also tell you there's a possibility that that could cost us more money, and we don't want to do that in the spirit of consolidation. It happens in corporations as well, where they end up costing themselves more money when they centralize and then they decentralize again. We'd have to be very careful about that.
Thank you so much. There is so much else we could talk about. I really wish we had more time, but I think you've both done a lot to give viewers and our readers a good look at where you would prioritize things and what steps that Seminole County needs to take next. And so I would, before I ask our candidates to make their closing statements, remind people that the Orlando Sentinel, as with other races, will be making an endorsement in this race. But that doesn't mean that we expect everybody to just take our word for it. There are multiple venues to find out more information about this race, starting, of course, with our great news coverage. In addition, both candidates have websites. Both are on social media. There have been some appearances, and I think there may be a few more. And then, of course, you can talk to your friends and neighbors. And in the long run, just take a look at which candidate best meets your priorities and your plans and aspirations for Seminole County in the future. But the most important thing is that on or before November 5th, you have to take the time to go out to the polls. Many of us will take advantage of early voting or vote by mail. Those ballots should already be to you. So as long as you cast your ballot, you will be doing what you need to do to ensure Seminole County's future. And with that, we would like to go to closing statements. Mr. Carney, can we start with you?
Sure. I just thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the Orlando Sentinel for all the great work they've done in our community. I've been a part of the Central Florida community since the early 90s. I had a clothing business in the Crossroads Shopping Center of Lake Buena Vista when I first moved up here. So I lived in Orange County in the Windermere Gotha area. I've lived in Lake County for some years. I had a small business there. I bought a 50-year-old printing company, and I had a historic home on the National Register. I raised 4 kids in this community, 2 of which I put through Florida Southern University in Lakeland. I moved to Seminole County early in 2017, where I brought my business and continued to grow that. My life was interrupted during the COVID, and my kidneys failed about the same time that COVID did. So I spent about 4 years of COVID fighting kidney dialysis, and I came back to life last year, October 5th, when I received my kidney transplant. And as soon as I got out of recovery, I filed to run for county commission. I intend to work a full-time job as county commissioner. It's the most exciting opportunity that I could put together for myself personally, and I think that I can do a good job for the county. I have lived in many states across this country. I lived in New York. I lived in Vermont. I lived in Boston. I've sailed the entire coast of the United States on one sailboat or another. I've had, in my small business, I've worked in every city in Florida. I brought my wood-fired pizza oven to every musical festival and event you can think of, and I followed the art show circuit around. I've been involved in the art community in Central Florida with the Orlando Fringe Festival, where I did some great business for about 10 years. And, you know, I'm a Central Florida staple, and I would like to make my mark on the future of Seminole County. And I'd ask for your vote. Visit GaryCarney.com and vote for me in November. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Herr, you want to wrap us up?
I'd be happy to wrap us up, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning and for the work that you do to educate voters. I would tell you that I've been in the community since 1984. I'm a graduate of Stetson University. I am actually a first-generation high school graduate. My parents did not have even a high school education, and I have lived the American dream. The opportunities that were put in front of me were based on hard work and often stepping into roles that no one else wanted. And I would tell you that I ran for office very similarly. I never had an aspiration to be a government employee or a public official, but what I did have an aspiration for was the idea that our citizens that are coming in the future have the same opportunity to live the American dream in Seminole County that I did. I've lived here since '84, bought a home in '86, raised 2 children, both college graduates as well, one Stetson Hatter and one Seminole State bachelor's degree graduate. Both are working, and I celebrate that every day. What I bring to the county commission is executive level leadership. I did not give up my day job, and I'm very proud of that. And the reason for that is because I vote my mind 100% of the time. I don't need this job. I'm doing it for the betterment of the community. And I bring business level decision making for the billion-dollar budget that we run. This can't be run like a small business. It has to be run like every single dollar that we spend is yours, because it is yours, it's not mine. I am endorsed by Seminole County Sheriff Lima and by the Firemen's Association. and several other entities as well. I've done a decent job in my first 4 years, and I say decent because it is a tremendous learning curve. And what you want is somebody that can hit the ground running, and I did that the first time, and I am ready to do that the second time from a very higher level. We want to be able to influence the state legislature to make sure that they're doing right by our county, and I think I have that ability to do that as well. I would tell you that looking out for public safety is important, jobs and affordability of homes are important, and also looking out for the most vulnerable in our community, including those with no homes and the animals that don't have a voice. And with that, I would say go to Vote for Her, and that's FOR, vote for HERR.com if you want to learn more or donate. I appreciate you all very, very much.
Thank you. And we very much appreciate both of you who were able to accommodate our last minute request to join us today. And with the storm bearing down, that speaks very highly of both of your dedication to public service. We wish you the best of luck